Going to be comparing the Twilight franchise to the Black Beauty franchise. The reason for that is because in part one of the series, I compared Twilight to Rebel Moon, Twilight 1. I compared Black Beauty to the Olympus Has Fallen trilogy, Black Beauty 1. So now I'm going to compare those two franchises. I've watched the 1994 Black Beauty movie before. I actually used to own it on VHS tape back when my parents lived in New York, when I actually had a VHS player along with VHS tapes. Now I have one VHS tape. It's a nice reminder of those old days, but I don't have a VHS player anymore. I have a DVD player, but I rarely even use that because for the most part I'm using YouTube or streaming nowadays. There's free Black Beauty movies that actually have scores on Rotten Tomatoes. Then you got 5 Twilight films. I haven't seen any of the Twilight films or read any of the books, but I've watched videos discussing these movies and books, so I know about them. And what I've heard about them makes me go, ooh, nope, I'm not going to watch the Twilight films. I'm not reading the books. This does not interest me. I generally speaking enjoy animal movies. I like sweet, wholesome, feel good animal movies. Black Beauty's an example of that. When you look at highest score for each franchise, ooh, none of the Twilight movies are fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. The highest score is only a 49% for the first movie from 2008, as well as Breaking Dawn Part 2. I've heard slightly more positive things about Breaking Dawn Part 2. It's the only one that I've heard even moderately positive things about. When it comes to Black Beauty, the 1994 movie has a 74%. When you look at lowest score, Breaking Dawn Part 1 only has a 25%. The 2020 Black Beauty movie, which actually has unfortunately been removed from streaming, so now in order to watch it, you have to track down a DVD copy of it or try to see if someone posted the movie on YouTube or try to find some shady third party site that would allow you to watch it. That movie only has a 48%. Then we look at average score. Twilight only has an average of 39. Black Beauty has an average of 57. Then we look at gap between lowest and highest score. You got a gap of 24% in the case of Twilight, then a gap of 26 in the case of Black Beauty. Pretty close, but by literally only 2%. Twilight wins this one round, but Black Beauty already won 3 rounds, so it's going to win no matter what. And in this case, it's not difficult for me whatsoever. It's obvious right away. Yeah, of course I'm going to choose Black Beauty. Part of that is because of nostalgia, as I talked about just a few minutes ago. But on top of that, what I've heard about Twilight makes me go, ooh, that's pretty problematic. For one, the basic premise of this series is pretty creepy if you think about it. You got this normal underage girl that's being courted by a 100-year-old man who's dead and has killed people. Yikes. That makes me uncomfortable already. And on top of that, when you think about Bella as a main character, wow, she is dull, passive, uninteresting, unlikable. Think about it. Before the last movie, Breaking Dawn Part 2, how much agency does Bella Swan have? How many times does she make a choice for herself? She chooses to pursue Edward for some reason, despite all the very obvious signs that she should not do this. And she chooses to try to kill herself so this guy will notice her. Yikes, that's deeply unhealthy. It's just shocking to me that you have a main character that's this passive, uninteresting. And also, there's shockingly little plot in these movies. For the most part, it's just melodrama. That's pretty boring. I mean, when you get to Breaking Dawn Part 2, at least it seems like there's more action in there. So, hey, at a minimum, there's some enjoyment you can get out of it. With those other movies, they don't even seem enjoyable to me. They don't seem fun. It feels like man, is it a slog to get through them. When you think about the relationship between Edward and Bella, you're like, oh yikes, this is one of the most unhealthy, toxic, and codependent relationships I've ever seen in a movie. there's so there's so many problems with it. It's also like, oh yikes, this sends a terrible message to the people consuming it. Especially to teenage girls. Yikes. I mean, the second Twilight movie is literally about a high school girl who gets suicidal because her high school boyfriend breaks up with her. It should be obvious right away that's deeply unhealthy. If you went through a breakup, okay, it's fine if you feel sad. Like, oh, 2 days ago, I broke up with my boyfriend. Oh, that's sad. But you have to be able to move on. You gotta be able to reach out to your family and friends so they can support you, not shut down completely. So, I'm definitely easily gonna choose the Black Beauty franchise. Admittedly, I've only seen one of these movies, but generally speaking, Black Beauty is more my thing. Not that I'm opposed really to vampire movies, but YA movies like Twilight are really my thing. That'll wrap things up for this video.